Gaza Strip erupted in violence, signaling a fierce confrontation between Israel and Hamas. This tumultuous escalation is reminiscent of their 11-day standoff in 2021. But what led to this sudden resurgence? Launching their audaciously named Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, Hamas initiated a tri-frontal assault incorporating aerial, marine, and ground-based tactics. They deployed a staggering 5,000 rockets and sent combatants deep into Israel's territory. In a counter-move, Israel unveiled their Operation Iron Swords, aiming directly at Hamas epicenters within the Gaza Strip. Disturbingly, this military onslaught coincided with Simchat Torah, a cherished conclusion to the week-long Jewish festival of Sukkot. Was this timing a mere coincidence or a deliberate strategy? Rockets flew as far as the bustling city of Tel Aviv, while Israel towns like Sderot became ground zeros for direct skirmishes. As alarming footages emerge, questions arise. How have urban battles changed the course of this conflict? And are reports of Israeli locales under Hamas sway accurate? Who dominates? Israel's aerial display has been significant, with dozens of jets targeting Hamas' operational center, but with ground tensions escalating in places like Kfar Aza and Sufa. Where does the advantage truly lie? What's the human cost? With Gaza reporting around 232 Palestinian deaths and Israel grieving over 200 casualties, the human toll is mounting. But beyond numbers, how are these losses reshaping the socio-political landscape? What is Hamas' motive? Khalid Kadumi of Hamas alluded to long-standing grievances against perceived injustices towards Palestinians. With global eyes on this conflict, will their message resonate or fall on deaf ears? Let's delve into our in-depth analysis as we attempt to unravel the underlying currents of this unfolding crisis. Why would a group that's often labeled as terrorist by the West garner support from a significant portion of its people? The story of Hamas is not just about an organization. It's about a land, people, and a conflict that has raged for decades. To understand Hamas and its place in the Israel-Palestine narrative, we must delve into the old century conflict where both sides have experienced pain, loss, and hope. Let's discuss the background on the creation of Hamas. In 1987, during the first Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule, Hamas was born. It's an Arabic acronym for Harkat al-Muqawwama al-Islamiyya, meaning Islamic Resistance Movement. Rooted in the Muslim Brotherhood, a religious and political ground founded in Egypt. Hamas' main objective became the liberation of Palestine from Israeli occupation and the establishment of an Islamic State in historical Palestine. Let's discuss the Israeli-Palestine conflict. The Israel-Palestine conflict can trace its root to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Zionism, a Jewish nationalist movement, sought to establish a homeland in Palestine. After World War II and the Holocaust, Jewish immigration increased. The United Nations proposed a partition plan in 1947, which was accepted by the Jewish leadership but rejected by the Arab leaders. War broke out, and its aftermath, Israel was declared a state in 1948. Wars and uprisings have since marked the region's timeline. Today, Hamas is not only a militant group, but also a significant political player. In 2006, to the surprise of many, Hamas won the majority seat in the Palestine Legislative Council elections. They're not only based in the Gaza Strip, but also have a presence in the West Bank, which is primarily governed by Palestinian Authority and Fatah, a rival Palestinian faction. Who supports Hamas? Support for Hamas varies. Many Palestinians view it as a resistance movement against Israeli occupation, while others are attracted to the social welfare programs. Regionally, countries like Iran and Turkey have shown support, but it's not unconditional. Israel's establishment is seen by many Jews as a necessity, especially after the horrors of the Holocaust. They argue that the Jewish people have faced persecution throughout history, deserve a homeland where they can be safe and self-reliant. Palestinians see the establishment of Israel as the Nakba, or catastrophe. Over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced, and to this day, many hope to return. Palestinian narratives are filled with accounts of house demolitions, detentions, and confrontations with the Israeli military. Imagine this. The Gaza Strip is roughly 365 square kilometers, housing around 2 million Palestinians. To give a US comparison, that's little less than twice the size of Washington, D.C., which has a population of about 700,000. The population density and conditions in Gaza have led to humanitarian concerns. Critics argue that the U.S. has a double standard. They point out how the U.S. criticized Russia's annexation of Crimea as an invasion.
Annexation of Crimea and further aggression in eastern Ukraine. America has few economic interests in Ukraine. We recognize the deep and complex history between Russia and Ukraine. But we cannot stand by when the sovereignty and territorial integrity of a nation is flagrantly violated. If that happens without consequence.
But when Palestinians are pushed from their homes, the response is often milder.
Israel, what is more tragic, or equally tragic, is the blindness and the deafness of the world and the international community for so many years, of the warnings we have been saying that this was coming. Israel knew that this was coming their way. We, the National Movement of Palestine, the PLO, have found a different path 30 years ago. We have committed to what the world asks us: recognize Israel, commit to negotiations and non-violence, and to international legitimacy and resolution. Israel was expected to do one thing only: roll back its occupation, stop its colonial settlement expansion. Not one day it did so, killing the prospects of a two-state solution. And the world was expected to do one thing, Christian: uphold international law equally on everybody, on Ukraine, on Palestine. And the world fails to do that.
So now
no accountability.
Just like in many conflict zones, suffering and prolonged strife can lead to the rise of militant groups. They promise defense, justice, and sometimes revenge. Their methods, however, often result in civilian casualty, leading to further complications in reaching peace. Further north in Lebanon, there's Hezbollah, another group often labeled terrorists by many Western nations. Born out of Israeli occupation of Lebanon in the 1980s, Hezbollah has grown into a significant political and military force. Their antagonism with Israel remains fueled by regional dynamics and post-confrontation. Hezbollah so far have not joined the attack with Hamas, but they are currently observing the situation. Hamas, despite its endeavors, is severely outmatched in terms of military capabilities when pitted against Israel, particularly given the latter's advanced defense systems and the unwavering support it received from West nations. The United States, traditionally seen as a beacon of democracy and an advocate of human rights, has increasingly lost its moral footings in the eyes of many Middle Eastern and Asian countries. There's a perception that while the U.S. promotes democratic ideas, it has been involved in the destabilizing or overthrowing of various governments. This includes alleged involvement in countries such as Iraq, Libya, Iran, Cuba, Costa Rica, Ukraine, and many more. U.S. role in the political upheaval surrounding Imran Khan's removal from the government in Pakistan have further added to the skepticism about America's true intention in the region. The recent attack by Hamas on Israel has been widely condemned by many around the globe. However, this raises a poignant and often overlooked question. What alternatives does Hamas really have?
There is a war. You see, we're having this conversation because Israelis have seen what they have seen today, but my people see this every day. Every single day. Palestinians are targeted, killed, arrested, surrounded, their land is confiscated, their holy places are desecrated. Not only Muslims, but Christians. You have been following what is happening in the Al-Aqsa Mosque and in our Christian churches, the spitting on Christian worshippers. Our people have been seeing apartheid being enforced on them over the last years, and the land is being taken, and the hope for a political solution that will fulfill their rights dissipating. And therefore, this is what we need to discuss.
Fine. Yeah, I know. But I mean, as you know, neither the Israeli political spectrum nor the United States nor anybody, it's like the Palestinian issue doesn't exist anymore. The two-state solution tried, the diplomacy is on.
Palestinians in the Gaza group live under uniquely challenging conditions.
Oh, but they have special permits. Oh. Exactly. Look, guys, how's the light? Machine gun.
They reside in what can be described as a massive open-air prison, densely packed with people.
You know that 70% of the population in Gaza, the Palestinians, are refugees since the Nakba of 1948. You know that they have been under besiegement since 2007, the biggest open-air prison. This is what leads to events that you want to discuss.
So here's the thing.
This small area, enclosed by barriers and fences.
Israeli closed more than 2,000 shops, and this is one of the Turkish bathroom and Turkish museums. It is demolished after
provides little room for expansion or development. The lack of an operational airport further stifles their connection to the outside world.
For you to be able to see Jerusalem and to be able to go to Masjid al-Aqsa, you have to surrender, and then you have to accept Israel.
No.
And movement into and out of the region is heavily restricted.
Can Muslim go there? American Muslim can go there? No? Okay, as I told you guys.
Wait, can Christians go there?
Yes, only Christian and Jewish.
Over a year ago, the UN's Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, John Holmes, visited the Gaza Strip.
Is that I think this policy of the blockade is ineffective. It's resulting in misery for the Palestinians who live here. They're living in a kind of open-air prison. They're still suffering this kind of collective punishment they've been suffering for 3 years now. And it's counterproductive. It's counterproductive including for Israel, because it's only breeding despair. It's not helping their objectives, whatever they might be in Gaza.
The disparity is glaring when we compare the amenities and services accessible to Israelis with what's available to the people in Gaza. As international attention wanes, and as both Western and Middle Eastern countries seem to show dwindling interest in addressing the core issues, it becomes crucial to ask, given these circumstances, what real options are left for Hamas? The situation underscores the importance of addressing root causes rather than just the symptoms of a long-standing conflict.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון,
אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.